I never thought I would face both cancer and abandonment in the same week. The emptiness of our house hit me when I returned from that doctor appointment. The note from Amanda was short. She and Sophia needed space. After 16 months fighting stage 3 cancer alone, the news came $8 million from an uncle I barely knew. The bitter irony of timing was not lost on me. How quickly fortunes change lives and people. Before I continue my story, let me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe if you want to hear how I handled those who abandoned me when they suddenly wanted back in my life. My life before cancer was what most would call the American dream. At 38, I had carved out a solid career as a software engineer at a promising startup in the Seattle tech scene. Our suburban home was modest but comfortable, with a well-kept lawn and a basketball hoop above the garage that Sophia and I used on weekends. Amanda and I met during a friend's housewarming party. She caught my attention with her infectious laugh and witty comebacks. After 4 years of dating, we tied the knot in a small ceremony with close family and friends. Sophia came along 2 years later, transforming our lives in ways we never imagined. By the time she turned 14, she was developing her own personality, smart and determined like her mother, but with my analytical mind. From the outside, we appeared to be the perfect family. Weekend barbecues, family movie nights, and annual camping trips filled our photo albums. Amanda decorated our home with framed family portraits, each showing 3 smiling faces that suggested nothing but happiness. But beneath that polished surface, small cracks had begun to form. My startup was going through a critical growth phase that demanded 60-hour workweeks. Amanda complained about my absence while simultaneously expanding her shopping habits. Our credit card statements grew thicker each month with charges from designer boutiques and expensive restaurants where she would lunch with friends. Sophia started pulling away too, spending more time with her new circle of friends whose parents drove luxury cars and owned vacation homes. She became increasingly conscious of what we did not have, comparing our modest lifestyle to her friends' more affluent circumstances. The subtle eye rolls when I mentioned budget constraints became more frequent. The financial strain was building quietly. Our mortgage payments stretched our budget thin, and Amanda refused to discuss downsizing or reducing expenses. The tension created a background hum of stress that we all felt, but nobody acknowledged directly. It started with unusual fatigue that I attributed to overworking. The persistent stomach pain I dismissed as stress. Amanda noticed my wincing during dinner one night and suggested seeing a doctor, though her tone conveyed annoyance rather than concern. I put off the appointment for weeks, buried under project deadlines and afraid of what unpaid sick days might do to our already precarious finances. When I mentioned not feeling well at breakfast, Amanda sighed heavily, reminding me of the upcoming vacation she had been planning. Sophia grew increasingly distant. She started making excuses to avoid our father-daughter pizza nights, preferring to spend weekends at her friend Caitlin's house, whose family had just installed an indoor pool. When she was home, she was glued to her phone, texting friends and rolling her eyes whenever I tried to start a conversation. The mortgage notice arrived with a red warning about our late payment. I hid it in my desk drawer, not wanting to trigger another argument with Amanda. We were 3 months behind, and the bank was losing patience. I started skipping lunches at work to save money, and took on freelance projects on weekends, further reducing my time with the family, but seeing no other option. The day everything changed started normally enough. I finally went for that doctor appointment during my lunch break, expecting to be prescribed antacids or told to reduce stress. Instead, the doctor ordered immediate tests after feeling something concerning during the examination. 2 days later, I sat across from Dr. Peterson as he delivered the news that would shatter my world: stage 3 colon cancer. The room seemed to tilt as he explained treatment options and survival rates. All I could think about was Sophia and what this might mean for her future. When I told Amanda that evening, she maintained composure, asking practical questions about insurance coverage and treatment plans. But later that night, I overheard her phone conversation with her mother. "I cannot handle this, Mom. What are we going to do? His insurance is terrible. We could lose everything. What about Sophia? She needs stability, not a sick father and financial ruin." My heart sank as I realized Amanda was more concerned about our bank account than my prognosis. When I tried to discuss treatment options with her the next morning, she nodded absently, her eyes fixed on her phone as she texted someone. Sophia would not look at me directly anymore. When I asked about her day at school, she gave one-word answers before retreating to her room. When I suggested she might want to talk to someone about what was happening, she snapped that she was fine and did not need therapy like some weirdo. The first week after diagnosis was a blur of doctor appointments, insurance calls, and research. I learned about chemotherapy protocols, survival statistics, and the astronomical costs that even good insurance only partially covered. Every night I stayed up late crunching numbers, trying to figure out how we would manage. Amanda made half-hearted attempts to be supportive. She prepared bland meals that I could barely eat and left pamphlets about cancer support groups on the kitchen counter. But when I brought up our financial situation, she became defensive and changed the subject. My suspicions grew when I checked our joint account and discovered Amanda had transferred several $1,000s to her personal account. When questioned, she claimed it was for Sophia's school trip and upcoming expenses, but the amount far exceeded what was needed. The day of my first extensive tests at the hospital, Sophia refused to visit. Amanda claimed our daughter was studying for an important exam, but Sophia's social media showed her at the mall with friends. That night alone in our bedroom, I felt the first crushing weight of abandonment, even before they physically left. The chemotherapy began 2 weeks after diagnosis. The side effects hit me hard: nausea, fatigue, and a weakness that made even walking to the bathroom an ordeal. Amanda visited during the first treatment, but spent most of the time on her phone in the waiting room. By the third session, she had stopped coming altogether, citing work commitments at the boutique where she worked part-time. Our arguments about money grew more frequent and intense. The medical bills piled up faster than I could process them. When I suggested we consider selling our house to move into something more affordable, Amanda exploded. "We are not losing our home because you got sick. Sophia would be devastated. Her friends are here. Her school is here. Have you thought about anyone but yourself?" Her words cut deeper than any surgical scalpel. I was fighting for my life, yet somehow I had become the villain in her narrative. My longtime friend Brian came to visit one Saturday while Amanda was supposedly at a work function. His face told me something was wrong before he even spoke. "Do not shoot the messenger, Tony, but I saw Amanda yesterday at Riverside Grill. She was not alone. The knot in my stomach had nothing to do with cancer." Brian reluctantly shared what he had witnessed: Amanda laughing and holding hands with a man at an upscale restaurant across town. He had taken a discreet photo that showed Amanda looking happier than I had seen her in months. The man was Jake Thornton, a successful business owner whose daughter attended the same school as Sophia. I had met him once at a school fundraiser and remembered Amanda commenting on his recent divorce and impressive house. When confronted that evening, Amanda did not deny it. She stood in our bedroom, arms crossed defensively as she delivered the final blow. "What did you expect, Tony? I cannot handle this cancer thing. I need someone I can count on, someone who can provide stability. Jake understands what Sophia and I need right now." I was too stunned to argue, too exhausted from my treatment to fight. I simply asked if Sophia knew. Amanda's silence was answer enough. I will never forget the day they left. I had just returned from a particularly brutal chemotherapy session, barely able to stand. The house felt different, immediately emptier somehow. Walking from room to room, I noticed the missing items: Amanda's favorite books, Sophia's laptop-framed photos now conspicuously absent. On the kitchen counter sat a single sheet of paper with Amanda's hurried handwriting: "Tony, Sophia, and I need space to process everything. This situation is too much for her to handle. We will be staying with a friend until we figure things out. Please do not try to contact us right now. We need time." No mention of love, no well wishes for my recovery, just clinical detachment from the woman who had once promised to stand by me in sickness and in health. The bank account notification came through on my phone while I stood there holding the note. Amanda had withdrawn nearly everything, leaving just enough to avoid an overdraft. 16 years together, and this was what it had come to. I tried calling Sophia repeatedly, my fingers trembling as I dialed. Each call went straight to voicemail. I sent text after text, pleading just to know she was okay. "I love you, Soph. Please just let me know you are all right. We can figure this out." Nothing. The silence from my daughter hurt worse than anything the cancer could do to my body. The physical pain of chemotherapy paled compared to the emotional agony of abandonment. Night after night, I lay alone in our bed, alternating between waves of nausea from treatment and overwhelming panic about the future. Medical bills covered the dining table, each one, a reminder of how quickly life can spiral out of control. Sleep became impossible without medication. When I did manage to drift off, nightmares jolted me awake, leaving me gasping in the darkness. Thoughts I never imagined having crept in during those lonely hours, dark possibilities about ending the pain permanently. What was I fighting so hard to live for now? 6 weeks after they left, a courier delivered divorce papers. Amanda wanted full custody of Sophia, claiming my health made me unfit to parent. She wanted the house too, despite knowing I had nowhere else to go during treatment. Her lawyer, undoubtedly paid for by Jake, had crafted a document that painted me as a burden rather than a husband and father deserving of compassion. Through the school administration office, I learned Sophia had transferred to Westlake Academy, an exclusive private school where annual tuition exceeded what most people paid for a car. Jake was obviously funding this new life for my daughter, replacing me in every way that mattered. The lowest point came on what should have been our anniversary. 17 years earlier, we had met at that housewarming party, both spilling our drinks when we bumped into each other. Now I sat alone in a house I would soon lose, flipping through our wedding album with a port catheter in my chest and bills I could not pay scattered around me. By chance, I spotted Sophia at the mall during a rare day when I felt strong enough to pick up prescriptions. Her hair was styled differently, and she wore clothes. I did not recognize brands far more expensive than what we used to buy. When our eyes met across the food court, I saw panic flash across her face. Before I could reach her, she disappeared into the crowd, deliberately running from her own father. That night was the darkest of my life. Brian called to tell me he had heard through mutual friends that Jake had proposed to Amanda, presenting her with a diamond that cost more than my annual salary. They were planning a spring wedding, barely waiting for our divorce to be finalized. My daughter would have a new father, one who could buy her affection with material things I could never provide. I sat on my bathroom floor until morning, too empty, even for tears. Just when everything seemed hopeless, unexpected support appeared from someone I barely knew. Brian introduced me to his cousin Sarah, an attorney specializing in family law who had survived breast cancer 5 years earlier. She reviewed my divorce papers free of charge, her face darkening as she read Amanda's claims. "This is predatory, Tony. Going after a cancer patient like this. We will fight it, and we will make sure the judge knows exactly what kind of person abandons their spouse during treatment." Sarah helped me file a response that protected my rights without draining my dwindling resources. More importantly, she connected me with a cancer support group that became my lifeline. Twice weekly, I sat in a circle with others fighting their own battles, people who understood the physical and emotional toll in ways my own family had not. Walter, my 70-year-old neighbor whom I had barely spoken to before, turned out to be a retired accountant. He appeared at my door one evening with homemade soup and an offer to help organize my financial situation. Together, we created payment plans for medical bills, applied for assistance programs, and found ways to delay foreclosure proceedings on the house. "I am too old and stubborn to watch a good man drown in paperwork when I have the skills to help," Walter explained when I tried to thank him. The call that changed everything came on a Tuesday afternoon. A law firm from San Francisco was trying to locate me regarding an estate matter. Initially, I assumed it was another collection agency using new tactics, but the caller insisted this was about an inheritance. Harold Jenkins, my father's estranged brother, whom I had met only twice as a child, had passed away months earlier. A reclusive inventor with no children of his own, he had apparently followed my career from afar, proud of my work in software engineering, though he never reached out directly. His will, revised shortly before his death, named me as his sole heir to an estate valued at just over $8 million. The attorney explained that Harold had lived modestly, despite his patents generating substantial income. He had invested wisely over decades, his fortune growing, while he continued to live in the same small house he had owned since the 1970s. I listened in stunned silence, unable to process this information, while still weakened from my most recent treatment. After hanging up, I sat motionless for nearly an hour, the implications slowly sinking in. With Sarah's guidance, I decided to keep the inheritance quiet until the legal process was complete. I continued my treatments, shared updates with my support group, and focused on the glimmer of positive news my oncologist had delivered. The tumors were responding to treatment, shrinking more than expected. My prognosis, once uncertain, was gradually improving. Harold's attorney handled the estate settlement efficiently, and within months, the funds were transferred to accounts Sarah helped establish. I paid off medical bills, eliminated the mortgage, and made plans for the future, assuming I would have one. Through it all, I told no one except Brian, Sarah, and Walter about my sudden financial change. Then came the leak. A small local business publication ran a story about Harold Jenkins' estate and mentioned the sole heir, his nephew in Seattle. Though my name was not explicitly stated, it included enough details for anyone who knew me to connect the dots. The first text from Amanda arrived less than 2 days after the article appeared. "Tony, I have been thinking about you so much. How are you feeling? I heard your treatments are going well. We should talk." After 5 months of complete silence, her sudden concern was transparently motivated. I did not respond. Next came a message from a number I did not recognize. "Dad, it's Sophia. Just wanted to check how you're doing. Love you." My heart clenched painfully. After months of ignoring my messages and calls now, she reached out with casual affection as if no abandonment had occurred. The timing was too convenient to be coincidence. The most surprising contact came from Jake himself. His message arrived via LinkedIn, a platform we had connected on years earlier for professional networking. "Tony, I know. Things have been complicated between our families. I think it's time we moved past any misunderstandings. Amanda and Sophia speak highly of you, and I would like to get to know you better. Perhaps we could meet for lunch. My treat, of course." The audacity was almost admirable. This was the man who had taken my wife, influenced my daughter against me, and now wanted to play magnanimous now that I had money. I showed the messages to Sarah, who advised caution. "They smell money and want access," she warned. "Let me help you protect yourself before any meetings take place." Together with Sarah's firm, we developed a strategy. I agreed to meet Amanda, Jake, and Sophia at an upscale restaurant of their choosing. Before that, I had established trusts, completed my will revisions, and secured my assets with Sarah's guidance. The meeting was every bit as uncomfortable as expected. Amanda had styled her hair the way I once mentioned I liked. Sophia sat nervously, looking more like the daughter I remembered than the stranger who had run from me at the mall. Jake was overly friendly, ordering expensive wine and laughing too loudly at nothing particularly funny. Amanda reached across the table to touch my hand, tears welling in her perfectly made-up eyes. "I made a terrible mistake, Tony. I was scared and confused. Cancer terrified me, and I reacted badly. But Sophia needs her father. We could try again for her sake. Family should stick together." Her performance was impressive. Had I not heard the same insincerity in her voice when she used to lie about credit card charges, I might have believed her. Jake jumped in, speaking of blended families and fresh starts. Sophia remained mostly silent, occasionally nodding when prompted by her mother. I listened patiently, allowing them to present their rehearsed reconciliation pitch. When they finished, I calmly placed a folder on the table. "I know exactly why you are here, and it is not because you suddenly care about my well-being." Inside this folder is proof of the funds Amanda took before leaving documentation of missed child support after she gained temporary custody and records of every unanswered message I sent Sophia. Their faces fell in perfect unison. I looked directly at my daughter, softening my tone. For her, I still had love despite the pain. "Sophia, I have never stopped wanting you in my life. That will never change. But your mother and Jake are not here because they care about me or regret their actions. They are here because they think I have money now." After that confrontation at the restaurant, I made the hardest decision of my life. I would welcome Sophia back conditionally, but Amanda was permanently out of the picture as anything other than my daughter's mother. "I will always love you, Sophia, but I cannot pretend the past year did not happen. If you want to rebuild our relationship, we do it honestly through family counseling. No shortcuts." For Amanda, my message was simpler. I would proceed with the divorce as planned, though, with terms that ensured Sophia's well-being without enriching Amanda or Jake. Sarah had prepared documents that offered fair settlement while protecting my interests. Amanda did not take the rejection well. She cycled through tears, anger, and eventually threats about keeping Sophia away permanently. But as Sarah reminded me, the courts tend to look unfavorably on parents who abandon sick spouses, especially when documented evidence exists. Much of my inheritance went into a trust fund for Sophia with specific conditions. She would have access to funds for education and basic needs, but the bulk would remain untouched until she turned 25, with additional distributions at 30 and 35. More importantly, the trust included requirements for financial literacy, education, and community service values, I feared she had lost under Amanda and Jake's materialistic influence. The remainder of Harold's gift I dedicated to creating a foundation supporting cancer patients facing financial hardship during treatment. Having experienced the crushing weight of medical bills while fighting for my life, I understood better than most how financial stress compounds the physical battle. 6 months after that restaurant meeting, I received the news. Every cancer patient dreams of hearing my scans were clear. The aggressive treatment had worked. While I would need regular monitoring for years to come, I had beaten the disease that nearly took everything from me. Rebuilding my relationship with Sophia proved challenging but worthwhile. Our first few counseling sessions were awkward and tear-filled. She admitted feeling pressured by Amanda to cut contact with me, believing I would die anyway, and Jake could provide a better life. "I missed you every day, Dad," she confessed during our 4th session. "But Mom kept saying it would be easier if we made a clean break. That seeing you sick would traumatize me." Hearing how Amanda had manipulated our daughter hurt, but I focused on healing rather than resentment. Gradually, Sophia began spending weekends at my house, then extended stays during school breaks. Our basketball games resumed, though now we played at the community center rather than our old driveway. My friendship with Sarah evolved naturally into something deeper. Her understanding of both cancer and family trauma created a connection, unlike any I had experienced before. We took things slowly, both carrying scars from our pasts, but found joy in simple moments together. Jake's business encountered significant difficulties that winter. A combination of poor investments and economic downturn left him struggling to maintain the lifestyle he had used to impress Amanda and Sophia. Amanda was forced to return to full-time work, their lavish spending curtailed dramatically. Sophia mentioned offhandedly that they argued constantly about money, the irony not lost on either of us. The most profound healing came when I finally released the anger I had carried. Watching Amanda and Jake face their own challenges brought no satisfaction. Instead, I felt only gratitude for the clarity their betrayal had ultimately provided. True character reveals itself not during easy times, but in how people respond to crisis. Walter still visits weekly now, helping manage the foundation's finances rather than my medical bills. Brian remains my closest friend, the one who stood by me when everyone else walked away. The cancer support group still sees me regularly, though now I come as a volunteer rather than a patient. 1 year after receiving the all-clear, my life bears little resemblance to what it once was. I work reduced hours consulting for healthcare technology companies developing patient support systems. My new home is smaller but filled with genuine warmth. Sarah and I talk about a future together, taking each day as the gift it truly is. Sophia graduates high school next spring. She has abandoned her plans for an expensive private university in favor of the state school, with an excellent biomedical program, inspired partly by the doctors who treated me. The materialistic teenager who once ran from me in the mall now volunteers weekends at the cancer center, sitting with patients whose families cannot always be present. Amanda and Jake postponed their wedding indefinitely, as financial reality set in. Last I heard, they were selling their house and moving to a smaller community where living costs are lower. I wish them neither harm nor particular happiness, having reached a place of genuine indifference. Sometimes losing what we think matters reveals what truly does. Cancer took my health temporarily, but it gave me the greatest gift, the ability to see truth in relationships and the courage to build an authentic life. What would you have done? In my situation, would you have welcomed your family back or chosen a different path? Let me know in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe and share with someone who might need to hear that sometimes rock bottom becomes the foundation for a better life. Thank you for listening to my journey. Remember that true wealth has nothing to do with money and everything to do with who stands beside you when facing life's darkest moments.